Bitcoin's still looking bullish monthly. We're looking at the monthly on Bitcoin. Careful out on these crypto streets, you know. Careful out on these crypto streets. We've been up 7 months. We've been up 7 months. I believe if this month closes, it'll be the seventh month just closing up high. Bulls hella in control. So what am I looking at? Well, let's have a look now. Let me go over to the daily. Let me go over to the daily and show you what I've been looking at. So really and truthfully, what I've been trading, let's remove some of these indicators as well. Let's clean up the chart for you lot. What we were tracking, 6 hourly. Remember, we were tracking the rising wedge. You know, I like trading rising wedges because they're quite likely that they break down. It was tracking like a rising wedge. It did break down, ended up retesting the 50%, 618, came back down to the bottom of the range. Okay, that's this red line here. That's the bottom of the range. Top of the range is this white line here as well. Okay, and we've been in that range since February. Okay, we've been trading this range. It seems like a lot of movements happening, but we've just been going sideways. Okay, we've been going sideways, and I hope Bitcoin continues to go sideways like this. So what I've done is I've drawn a trend line in. I've drawn my trend line in here. Draw my trend line. This one's slightly come out, but if you look at the daily, you won't see it at all. So our trend line is there. That's what we're going to keep an eye on. We're keeping an eye on that. We are keeping an eye on the 50%, the bottom of the range and the top of the range. Okay, so it's reasonable to potentially want to go in on a short the higher we get up the range, and maybe you ladder in. Okay, you know how I like to have it like a triangle. It will be a reverse triangle or an inverse triangle, where I put less money here at the tip of the triangle and more money at the bottom of the triangle in for a potential short, at least down to the bottom of the range, and then perhaps to the 50%. Maybe take out your initial, probably actually because we'd be going short, probably be better to take out your initial at this range here, take out the remaining 60% or something, and then just leave a moon bag just in case we do break down to the bottom of the range. That's kind of how I like to treat these things. But it's bullish. At the end of the day, we're still getting higher lows. We are still getting higher lows in this range, and that's why I've got this trend line here, right? So if you're thinking of going long or buying some more spot position, I would only entertain if we ever came down to the 50%. So I would entertain coming down to the 50%, almost again like another triangle, something like that. More money down here, and then still taking the bottom of the range into account as well. Yeah, so just more money down here. So yeah, that's kind of how I'll be treating it. That's what I'm looking at Bitcoin as. If I was to zoom in a little bit more on the hourly chart, can I see anything? Is there any sort of pattern? What's the RSI saying? Let's have a look at the relative strength index. Yeah, you can see, I mean, we're in this hella overbought territory. Yeah, that's kind of where we are. But this is the thing with patterns. That's why you got to be careful with patterns. Is this another sort of rising wedge? You know, is this a rising wedge where we're going to break down? Or is this was it a ascending triangle, which typically breaks to the upside? And now we're just retesting the top of that triangle before we break out. And if we was to, the target is approximately, where's our target? If this was an ascending triangle or a bull flag as they call it, and we came out, we pushed to the top of the over the channel. So it's worth considering that. If you see this sort of start breaking out on the hourly time frame, it might be reasonable to suggest that this is an ascending triangle and we might be going up there. And then you might want to consider the market once it hits that area. So that's something I'll look out for. I'll look out for that. But I don't want to get too much into the hourly time frames and stuff like that. I don't trade that well on those sort of time frames. I really don't. I don't really like doing it. Let's remove the indicators. But yeah, at the moment, I'm just treating it as a range. Okay, top's the white here, okay, and at the bottom's the red down here. So the red starts at 60,893, and the top of the resistance level, the range up here is 73.7. Okay, so keep your eye on that, and the 50% is 66.4. So keep your eye on that. Any other altcoins that I'm keeping an eye on? Well, to be honest with you, it's more of a degenting, to be honest with you. I think I've got a couple of shorts on that's actually in profit, but I want to take profits quite early on it. I believe I'm like 80% up on Phantom, and I believe I put in a Harmony one, which is like 20% up. But any sort of shorts that I'm doing, I'm taking profits on those real quick because we're in a bull market. And it's better to just try and get some longs. You know, you've got a better chance of winning if you're trying to get longs in a bull market. So that's the case really. If we do end up coming back down, as I said, 50%, 618 in this trend line, I'm really looking for. Maybe stack up on the red here. If we push out and retest, then I'll reconsider my position on Bitcoin. I mean, I'm not going to be selling any of my Bitcoin, but if any trades, any altcoin trades as well, I'll be considering that as well. But at the moment, yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are. Trade that range. Trade that range. I was in a couple of other Discord groups telling me to have a look at WaxP. I did have WaxP in the last bull market, and that's because of where it came from. That's why it was suggested in a Discord group. It's come down quite a bit, and I believe it's where it can get to is quite high. It's just pushed past some of the weekly swing highs. So I'm looking at, it's 50%. I'm looking at 8 cents 8. It's 50%, and it's 618 comes in at, what's that, 8 cents pretty much on the dot. So I'm looking at that. It did have a recent pump. I believe they've changed their name or something, Wax Protocol or something to that effect. But up to its 50% level, it's got like 480% up to its 50%. It's reasonable to expect that in a bull market at the minimum. So you might want to consider sort of layering out. If there's something you want to go into, you might want to consider layering out at 25 cents and then at 39 cents at the 382. And then at 50%, you could do it that way. So you're sort of taking profit out at each of these levels. So yeah, it's on BitGet as well, so you can trade it leverage. I might go in leverage on something. If we get a nice pullback on Bitcoin, WaxP I'm going to have on my radar. And they also mentioned Illuvium as well. This is real degen stuff, guys. Real degen stuff, so be careful. ILV it is. I can't believe this thing was once at like $2,000. It's remarkable. And right now it's at 147. So it's to its 50%. It's got quite a bit of wiggle room to get there. So, you know, you're looking at nearly 500% or 400% or something to that effect. But I'll keep my eye on Illuvium as well. And I know people like Alex Becker like pumping this, but it's literally done nothing. I'll probably actually consider taking some profits when we get to this area here, somewhere around there. I would maybe consider taking out my initial, and that is a 157%, 10x leverage, and you're making quite a bit of money, and then just leave a moon bag, see if it ever recovers and gets there. So yeah, that's that really. Illuvium and WaxP I was told about. Apart from that, I've got the rest that I'm looking out for. If we was to get obviously a significant pullback, I'd like to enter a bit more into Arweave. I'd like to also get into AVAX. I'll also like to have a look at Seiyin Sui. I've got some Nazar Near. I'd obviously still want to get some more Near. The Near trade's been doing really well. And swapping my ETH for Solana was a really good move, you know. If I look at Sol versus ETH, look at this move. It was a really good move. I mean, I was buying Solana quite low anyway, but then to swap my ETH for Solana was such a great move because we came out here and we came and retested this 50%. 50% is so important. And then we broke out of that trend line and we're going up ever since. We are approaching Solana's all-time high though. We are its all-time high against ETH. But usually what you can expect, or what I like to expect, is if there's like 3 hits, you know, there's sort of like a hit on that resistance there, there's a hit on that resistance there, hit on that there. It's reasonable to expect, if it at least holds up against its 50%, that it will break through like on the 4th, in which case that would be extremely explosive. Remember, I like to talk about the cup and handle, and it's kind of a bit of a messy cup and handle, but a cup there, and then you've got your handle there, and that's what it's printing. Perhaps it prints another proper handle here on its 50% of this swing here, which is something to look at. So if any of you lot have ETH and you want to consider swapping your ETH for Solana, do that, man. Solana could be a safe bet. I think it's very likely to hit $480, nearly close to $500 this bull market. Phantom has surprised me. I'm always in Phantom. You know how I feel about Phantom. I trade Phantom quite a lot. I'm currently in a short on Phantom though, and you can see why. So hopefully it has a pullback, so we can get in on a bit more. What else am I looking at? ICP, I didn't get in on ICP. TR, Celestia, I didn't get in on Celestia. I'm salty about some of these things, but you can't be in everything. Optimism, OP, I do want to get in on some OP. Look at that 50% test. Look at that 50% test right there. Beautiful. But I wasn't paying attention to optimism. I must say, I wasn't really paying that much attention to it, but it escapes you sometimes. That's what happens. What was I looking at here? Why is it so? Look at that. I was looking at a rising wedge there, and look at this thing. Okay, it might be a time to put on a short on this optimism trade. So as we're speaking, 4 hours, as we're speaking, look at this. Look at this. Okay, so let's see how that reacts. Let's see what goes on. Let's see. This is why I was saying it could be a rising wedge, because altcoins are kind of showing a rising wedge, but Bitcoin necessarily ain't necessarily showing it. So sometimes we've got to look to the alts to see if it's giving us a clue. So let's see how it goes anyway. Yeah, good luck trading out there. Be careful on these crypto streets, you know. Be careful. It's dangerous out there. But then again, you know, what do I know? Cool.